Miller and Kreisel MX200 that was sent in from, where is this? Chapel Hill, North Carolina, I do believe. I could be mistaken, but I think I am correct. And this is for Doug. Customer sent a note with it. Hopefully you can make this out. Enclosed are the electronics, blah, 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 1997, history unknown. Obtained it for $100, probably at a yard sale or something similar. My mini M&K videos give him some confidence to challenge himself with a multimeter and a soldering iron. So, subwoofer issue. Connecting a source to the left mono input presents no sound. Connecting the same source to the right input makes the subwoofer speaker pop so violently to the point the speaker slams hard against the coil base. I've heard that. It's not pretty. My source is an iPhone 6, volume set to low, playing YouTube bass test and or music with good bass foundation. Gain set to 25 to 50% and low pass at 75. Highly confident each speaker is okay. Test 6.4 ohms. And then there is a YouTube video of the issue. If you want to manually type that in, you can actually watch. So he was in contact with Ken Kreisel of Miller and Kreisel, and he did present a schematic, which I have found sometimes a little misleading. I do have a bunch of Miller and Kreisel schematics from Ken himself and from other sources as well. Repair actions attempted. Replace all caps, 10,000, which are these two over here on the power supply board, or these four, I should say. 110s and one, at least 110,000 and two 100s tested poorly with an ESR meter out of circuit. Replace the 20K and 50K pots, which are these guys, the what it would be, the cutoff, control, and the gain. Found one diode testing open at location D16. Replace it with the same manufacturer brand. Also replace D17 for good measure. Those are these two diodes right there that form the plus and minus 12 volts for the op amps over here. So if one diode was open, that would be a problem. Replace 2.4K resistor at R72 and R74. Read 1850 ohms around R72. Had adhesive, and I also have some signs of heat. That's perfectly fine. Amp board fuses replace for good measure. Check the 10 mic caps for soldering. Pad lifted, so I soldered the lead to the trace. Maybe it's not good enough. I think it'll be fine. Check the jumper J12 photo attached when powered up. If I touch the jumper lead with the multimeter, there is an obvious hum to the speaker. No, the jumper when touch causes noise. The 10 mic caps next to the STK show leaky once soldered onto the PCB. Well, that's pretty normal with other electronics interfering with it. Permission to go $200. Over 200, please advise. And then here are some photos of the 10 microfarad caps with the pads being lifted. Jumper noise when touching that jumper. And then these are the two diodes that did get replaced. And there is a schematic from Ken Kreisel himself. Hopefully if you need something, you can follow along at home. Anyhow, that is where we are at the moment. I have not powered this up yet. I do have it connected to speakers and to a dummy load. And I do have it connected to my signal generator, which I do have set. Let's see, let's go ahead and set it to 100 hertz. So that should be good. Attenuation is down very low. I do have audio feeding into both left and right inputs. The input gain control right here, I'll set at halfway. And the bandpass filter is halfway as well, which I believe is about 75 hertz. So let's power this up and see what happens. Well, nothing abnormal yet. Let's give it some audio and see what it wants to do. I do hear audio. Turn up the gain a little bit. And we'll turn this gain up. So that's up all the way. And then I don't really see a change with the bandpass filter at 100 hertz. Now it does seem to limit right there. I can't go any higher with it, but it is actually working. Let's go for a lower frequency. Let's go with 60 hertz. And it certainly does limit the power output at one particular point. So looking at the variac over here, I'm pulling just barely over 100 watts, and it goes into some kind of current foldback limiting, or it won't let me go any higher than that. And that's at 60 hertz. I can definitely see it in the audio meter. So the most, headphones beware, the most I can get out of this thing is about 34 hertz, and right now it's pulling about 110 watts. Let me look at my output voltage on the variac. Well, we're only at like 115. Let's take it up to 125, and now we're pulling about 120 watts, and I think that's going to be the max that we can get out of it. I would expect much more, so that's not a good sign. It's claimed to be an MX200. It's got a very beefy transformer, and I know on some of these other units they'll easily do 150 watts, even though it's a 75 or 100 watt rated subwoofer. AC consumption, that's not RMS to the speaker. There's going to be losses in the transformer, heat generated by the amplifier over here, so that's not an actual AC input. So let's go ahead and disconnect both channels. So there's one channel connected, and that's working fine, and the other channel, and it's working fine as well. Hopefully you can actually hear that. Yes, there is bass there. So both input jacks are working. Now the customer said only one was working, and one made the speaker pop violently. Shoot. Well, I guess I will pull this thing apart and see if I can find something going on with the limiter circuit. I know on the schematic, I thought I saw something referencing the limiter, 2 limiters. So if it gets over a certain amount right here, it's going to limit the output, which I think is what's going on. But as far as I can tell, it's actually working. Like I said, I've got it going into a dummy load. We're pulling about 120 watts AC input right now, which would equate to probably 75 watts RMS output, which is going to rock your house, no doubt, at 35 hertz, or 30 as the case may be at the moment. Okay, let me pause this, do a little bit of research, and then we'll come back. One moment. Okay, so I've got it set up still at 30 hertz approximately. Hopefully you can see the voltmeter. I just want to go from chassis ground. I just want to measure the B plus going into the STK chip, and I've got plus 56 volts and minus 56 volts, which is good. Now I should have plus 12 and minus 12, so I've got 11.4 and 11.7. I believe this was the negative, yes, negative 11.4 and positive 11.7. And that voltage is what supplies these op amps. That's a TLO64 right there with the minus 12 and the plus 12. 64, 64. I thought there was another op amp on this board somewhere. Now this is a different schematic, and it shows a TLO74. 74, 74, 74. And all of these, I don't know if I can zoom in on them, and maybe you can make it out, or maybe not. But they are TLO64. There you go. You can certainly see it there. I wonder if I can zoom in just a hair more. Yeah, so those are TLO64 op amps, but I know there is a LM3080N op amp as well, and then this one is the other. There it is, TLO64CN. Okay, so I need to figure out, do I have a schematic that shows this LM3080N? Well, I must confess I was the idiot here, and I had my dummy load configured. Let me get it, show it to you here. Power off. So this is the dummy load that I use, and it's basically two 8 ohm 100 watt resistors, and then I installed, I think it's 150 ohm pot with a 100 ohm resistor in series, so that way I can monitor the output on both channels. This is the speaker output here. So I was running this in series for 16 ohms, but then I remember this is the dual subwoofer, and the customer measured 6.4 ohms on each speaker. So I went ahead and I paralleled. You can see the red lead connecting to the other one and the black lead connecting to the other black lead. So I just want to power this up. I know you can't see it, but I'll tell you what the meter says. Power on. And let's put a signal into it and see where clipping actually happens. Oh, much, much better. So now we're pulling about 350 watts, which is about what I would expect for a 200 watt RMS output. There's going to be heat generated and the heatsink is getting warm. But as far as I can tell, this thing is working. Even at the higher frequency, it's still pulling over 200 watts. Oh yeah, this thing is working perfectly fine. Let's go down to 100 hertz. And we have a sharp roll off at about 150 hertz, which is about what I would expect. And FYI, the dummy load is getting quite warm, so it's doing its job. As far as I can tell, this thing's working perfectly. I don't know what else to do. I guess I'll pop the board off and just take a visual inspection on the bottom of it here and see what it looks like. I was worried that once the customer said that one of these diodes was open, if I show you the schematic for that, which might be this one. No, that's not the one I was looking for. These have 1500 ohms. The customer claims 2400 ohms, which should be this one. So it basically takes the plus and minus 50 or 60 volts, feeds it through this resistor. It does say 2.5K here, and then that Zener diode references that at plus 12 and minus 12, and I'm getting 11 and a half, so that's pretty close. But if one of these diodes were to ever open, it could potentially send 50 or 60 volts into one of these op amps. I still need to try to find another schematic that has the correct op amp, the LM3080, is it? 3080, and see if I might have another Miller and Kreisel schematic. So, like I said, as far as I can tell, this thing is working perfectly. I'm going to let it run for a while, but in the meantime, while I got it running, I'm just going to connect an MP3 player to it. I'm going to go ahead and look through my Miller and Kreisel schematics and see if I have one that shows a board that does not use the 14-pin header, because as you can tell, there's no header on this board, and that would normally connect the speaker inputs and the RCA inputs and the pot on a separate connector that you can unplug and remove the whole board. And as you can see, this board has no connectors on it whatsoever. So let me dig through my Miller and Kreisel schematics and see what I can come up with. One moment. Oh, I think I hit pay dirt somewhere. Obviously not that schematic. But this schematic is for the Miller and Kreisel V125? V125 THX with HMG limiter. And I do see the 3080 IC listed right there. And this does have the THX setting so that the gain is predetermined. But if I go to the next, I believe, schematic, which is going to be the MX200 Rev 2 added pre-emphasis, de-emphasis, that looks pretty much like it with the 3080, and it does have the same output IC, the 4050V, which the customer did supply a picture with. Oh, that's the same schematic I already printed. So I do believe this is probably the correct schematic, because it does show those 2.4K resistors right there that the customer did replace. I don't see the power supply main filter caps somewhere. Yeah, it's on the other board that I don't have a schematic for. I probably do have it, just didn't dig it up at the moment. But I do believe this is probably going to be a more accurate schematic for this customer at this point. And I do notice that this cutoff control is only wired as a rheostat. And it does look like this one's only got 2 wires going to it. So as you can see, there's only 2 wires connected to that pot right there. So I'm certainly thinking that this is probably a more accurate schematic than Ken Kreisel supplied to the customer. Well, like I said, gonna let this thing run for a while. At least I do have what I believe is gonna be a valid schematic for this unit. Maybe a couple of things are different. I'm not seeing the, well, there it is, the trim pot, R99 possibly. I saw it over here on the schematic, R99. There it is, trim pot 20K, and that is a 203, so that is indeed a 20K resistor. So I'm pretty confident this is a more accurate schematic than Ken Kreisel actually sent the customer. So if you got an MX200, take a look at the, what did I say it was? The MX700 revision 2 schematic right there. There we go. Get it in the middle of the picture. Ding dong. It'll focus better. Anyhow, hopefully if you need something, you can freeze frame it and look at it. I might try to post a couple of frames on it at the end of the video. Well, I'm going to let this thing run and we'll see what happens. One moment, or 10 or 53 days. I don't know. We'll see. Hang on. Okay, MP3 player is connected. Let's hit play. I got it pumping pretty good. It's probably doing an RMS output of about 100 watts on peaks right now. So I'm just going to let this thing play for the next hour or two and then see if I see any kind of problems with it. So once again, we'll be back sometime. Well, shoot, I just don't know what to do here. I've had this thing running for the past 2 hours and I've been pushing it hard to the point where I went to lift this up and I kind of might have lost some skin because obviously this thing is not getting cooling sitting down flat like that. But I can't find anything wrong with this. I did go ahead and the customer had stated that one of the input jacks does not work. Let's go ahead and get to another song here. We'll turn this up. So there's one jack, working perfect, unplugged. Other jack, working perfect. No popping, no hissing, nothing like that at all. So, yeah, I mean, I could take this apart. I trust the guy's judgment. He sent me pictures. The solder looks good. I don't see any issues. There's where the STK chip is mounted right there. Normally when there's a problem, if you wiggle these caps, you'll apparently find it easily. It's working perfect. I don't know what to do at this point. So I think I'm going to let it run for another few hours. And if I don't see any other issues, I'm just going to box it up and ship it back to my customer, who I thought was in one of the Carolinas, North Carolina, Chapel Hill, North Carolina. So hopefully that will be the end of it. If it is, thank you for watching. I really do appreciate it. You can follow me on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter at NorCal715. You can email me, norcal715videos@gmail.com. Once again, as of right now, so hectic. Please leave me a comment on one of the videos and be patient. I try to answer the comments when I get time. I've answered a couple emails, just so much. Life gets in the way. Life gets in the way. No, I don't need your help right now. Anyhow, that is going to be it. Everyone, thank you. Leave me a question, a comment, a concern down below, good or bad. I try to respond to the comments when I have time and answer your comments, especially if you have an item that needs to be worked on. As of right now, it's early July 2024, a minimum of 3 to 6 months out to look at a unit right now. So if you're still interested, let me know. I will try to get back to you in a somewhat timely fashion. Everyone, thank you for watching. I really, really appreciate it. Everyone, have a great day. Nope, I don't want you up here right now. Once again, everyone, have a great day. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.